Yeah, absolutely. So Strathclyde University, we are using Microsoft Suite, but we don't have Teams and have an inability to operate Teams. So that's why Chris is going to be clicking through my presentation today remotely. So my name's Suzanne Faulkner. I'm a teaching fellow at Strathclyde University, teaching prosthetics and orthotics within the Department of Biomedical Engineering. And I'm going to be chatting to you today about how you can use Lego Serious Play to enhance communication in group work. And it's going to be a bit of an overview of a project that I did with one of my colleagues, Katie Savage, that was funded by UKISA. So we can move on to the next slide. Anyone who knows me and follows me on Twitter is probably very aware that I live in Largs. It's a coastal seaside town and it's awesome and you can all come and visit. So we can move on to the next slide, Chris. So basically today, I'm going to start by giving you an overview of what Lego Serious Play is and also a brief overview of the UKISA funded study that myself and Katie Savage carried out. And then I'm going to talk about some feedback that I received for a very recent online Lego Serious Play workshop. Obviously, traditionally, we would run these workshops face-to-face with a whole bundle of Lego, but due to COVID-19, we've had to reinvent how we use Lego Serious Play, and I've attended 2 different training sessions on how to facilitate Lego Serious Play online. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is what 2 grown women look like when they receive £2,000 of funding from UKISA, and literally all but £5, I think, was spent on Lego Serious Play. So this is me and Katie unboxing our Lego for the project that we were doing for UKISA. Next slide, please, Chris. So first of all, I'd like to say this is probably the worst way to introduce you to Lego Serious Play. Typically, the best way to introduce anyone to Lego Serious Play is to facilitate and do a workshop with them. So I'll do my best to explain what it is online. Ultimately, it's a facilitation technique, and it's used in a variety of different settings. It has originated from the Lego company itself, but it's used in lots of different companies. NASA use it, Nokia use it, and it's becoming more increasingly widely used in higher education as well. Ultimately, Lego Serious Play is play with purpose. There's a reason for doing it. It's not just frivolous. There's always an objective to doing that. And one of the good things about it is that it allows you to explore the real world without fearing the consequences. What does that mean? It means you can explore problems and come up with solutions without any, I guess, excess consideration about what other people think. Okay, it's used to facilitate problem solving, and it utilises visual, auditory, and kinesthetic skills. So you're using your hands and you're speaking to people at the same time during these workshops. And one of the things that we say is that you talk with your hands and listen with your eyes. So when people are describing their models, they're guiding you around it using pointers, could be a bit of Lego, could be their finger, and you're very much listening with your eyes. You're observing and taking in what the model's telling you. Next slide, please. So believe it or not, to become a facilitator trained in Lego Serious Play, for me, I went to Legoland for 4 days to learn how to become a Lego Serious Play facilitator, which is obviously a hardship, but I coped. And we learned to communicate by using metaphors. So if you look at the top image here, you can see that there's a tortoise on top of a car, and that, for me, the metaphor I created highlighted dynamic change. And you can probably all guess what the bottom metaphor is. It can represent rising above challenges or overcoming obstacles. And we talk about the concept of the knowledge of the hand. And essentially, when people are struggling with what to build in Lego Serious Play, we just say to them, just have faith in the process, start putting bricks together, and something will come of this. And next slide, please, Chris. So one of the fantastic things about Lego Serious Play is that it absolutely flattens any hierarchy within a group. It brings everyone to the same level. And you've all probably been in meetings where 20% of the people take up 80% of the airtime and you've lost the will to live because your points aren't considered or you just don't feel that your voice is being heard. Lego Serious Play is absolutely fantastic at smashing this, basically. And there's some rules that help to facilitate this. So you cannot alter or interpret someone else's model. So if I present my model to you, I own the model, I tell you the story, you don't get to interpret it, or you don't get to change it either, okay? And the communication takes place through the model in front of you as well. one of the very important rules is that everyone listens and everyone participates. So you don't get someone sitting back with their arms crossed, okay? Everyone needs to participate in this process. And I think one of the key things that allows this facilitation to take place is that there are no right or wrong answers. You're building your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas. None of those which can be wrong, they belong to you. And I think when people know there are no right or no wrong answers, they have this, they're less reserved, they have the confidence to participate in this. Next slide, please. So, as I said, this talk is related to group work, and I'm sure we're all aware of the challenges that group work presents to students, but there's an additional challenge to our international students, particularly those who are non-native speakers of English, who can find it increasingly challenged to participate in group work activities. So that's why I was particularly interested in looking to see if using Lego Serious Play could enhance the participation of non-native speakers of English in group work activity. So this quote just highlighting the difficulties and the complexity of group work that all students experience, but in particular they can be heightened for our international students. Next slide, please. Okay, so the aim of the project was to see can Lego Serious Play enhance the participation and experience of our non-native speakers of English, and also to look at evaluating the use of Lego Serious Play in higher education. Chris, I've suddenly got the ability to change my slides, so I'm on it now. Okay, so basically it involved 60 students. We provided them with a questionnaire before the workshop. We conducted the LSP session, and then we had a post-LSP questionnaire as well. And following that, we conducted semi-structured interviews. And the literature, when we look at the challenges faced by international students or non-native speakers of English in group work activities, is that they have self-perceived insufficient language skills. And this came out when I was doing one-to-one interviews with the students. I found that their English language skills were fantastic, but they would say
Suzanne,
to me,
are you what slide are you on? I think you might just be churning the slides for you.
Oh, am I? Okay, well, that's not so hard. I've moved on to the next slide then.
Is it your methodology?
Oh, hold on, I can take control. Does this work now?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, okay, let's just change now. Okay, I told you I'm rubbish with Teams, right? And also the prospect of making mistakes causes anxiety. So the students think it's safer not to participate at all. Our students are all coming from very different educational backgrounds as well. And academic integrity and understanding of plagiarism varies greatly as well. In some cultures, copying is seen as a sign of respect, and obviously that's something that is a problem in higher education within the UK. And all these barriers that have been identified within the literature are cumulative. So how does Lego Serious Play address this? As we said previously, everyone has a voice. And also it's a safe environment for everyone to contribute because there are no right and no wrong answers. It encourages people to think differently and it facilitates the sharing of ideas. And as I said previously, the models and the meanings belong to the builder. And when we were using Lego Serious Play, we ask questions to and of the model, not to the individual. So having that separation, deflecting that attention from yourself onto the model can really help people to participate as well. So I've used it in Lego Serious Play with my students. I teach prosthetics and orthotics, and this is photographs from a session that I did. And this is one of my all-time favourite photographs of Lego Serious Play session. This was taken just before Christmas. To use a good Scottish word, our students were absolutely scunnered. They were fed up. It was our course is full on. So this for me just encompasses what Lego Serious Play can do. It can really lift the mood, and it really is good fun, and the students had an absolutely brilliant time. But not only did they have a brilliant time, they learned at the same time. So I'm just going to give you a brief, very quick overview, and I was quite surprised by the results of this. So the blue represents, just saying in the comment, it does not look serious. It doesn't look serious, but they had fun and they learned. It's all good. So this group of students were master's students who had actually done their undergraduate studies at Strathclyde. So I was quite a little bit surprised by this, in that some students found it difficult about giving oral presentations in class. I suspect if I had run this survey with first year students, I would have got very different answers. But certainly, again, it reflected in that not many people had particular difficulties in taking part in classroom discussions. As I said, I suspect this might be different if I'd done it with first year students as opposed to students who had been in the university for 4 years already. But certainly the literature tells us that there's challenges with regards to the participation of non-native speakers of English in group work activities. So how does LEGO Serious Play address this? Well, we provide a challenge in the form of a question. The students build a response to that with the Lego, and that's shared within their groups, and then we have a chance to reflect on that. And we always start with a skills build exercise, and I'll just flick through to here. Okay, so we start off by getting people to draw different types of ducks. Invariably, people find that quite difficult and frustrating. And then we get them to build as many different types of ducks as they can. And for me, this is an important activity to get buy-in. I can highlight quite early on with the skills build exercise that working in a different way, using the Lego bricks instead of pen and paper, gets very, very different results. And that's important for getting buy-in to the process, especially if you're working with people who can be a bit sceptical of using Lego in a higher education setting. And this is one of the workshops I did where they created their ducks and then put them on an iPad with a water background, which looked pretty cool. But the skills build exercise is important because some of our students may not have used Lego before. Some of our students may have played with Lego this morning with younger siblings, and some people might not have used it at all. So with this particular group of students, they were master's students, and I got them to build their project. The first build that I do is, if it's not with master's students, if it's with staff, would be to build your job. They build something that they know very well, and they're able to discuss it and create these metaphors and use it to build confidence in the process. Now, I'll just describe these images. So this was a student, and I asked them to build the challenges related to their master's project. So on the left-hand image here, we can see the tiger, indicating that from the outside, they perhaps look strong and they know what they're doing. We can see this lovely scene of a waterfall. The white structure here is the institution, and this here is the goal. Okay, so it's quite clear from this view that we can see what the goal is. She's going to achieve her master's dissertation. But if we actually take a look behind the scene, and I love this model, that we can see, okay, from the outside on the left-hand side, there's a very clear goal and pathway to achieving that master's dissertation. But on the right-hand side, we can see all of these obstacles in the way. The ladder that's going to help her to get up to the completion point of her master's, it's down, it's fallen down, highlighting challenges along the way. We've got the plant here that illustrates growth during the process as a researcher. This little ghosty man here represents different types of challenges. And these windows, although they look lovely, they don't open, again, representing other challenges in the process of creating of the pathway to getting her master's degree. And then we do a further build of, okay, you've highlighted, and these will all represent specific challenges to that student. We then go on and get them to build, okay, these are your challenges, what are your solutions? So I'm just going to look quickly at some of the results after the workshop. And I think important here that, especially when you've got students with English isn't their first language, that providing them with time to think is particularly important because it helps them to formulate answers to the responses. So, and I was actually quite surprised that it benefited the native speakers of English very, very highly, as well as the non-native speakers of English. And also got generally a positive response in the fact that the model helped them to formulate a response to the question that was being asked as well. And to a certain degree, using and communicating the Lego helped them with the confidence in participating in that group work activity. And importantly, there was very, I would say, very strong feedback with regards to the fact that the students could see value of using Lego Serious Play as a way to learn. So with Lego Serious Play, we can see all the students are leaning in, nobody's sitting back, disengaged in this process. And when we talked earlier about everyone participating and that no one takes control, one of the comments here, everyone contributed. We didn't have one big group leader. Everyone could share their ideas. Also, you can read the quotes here for yourself here as well, in that, that having the model in front of them helped them to, with their train of thoughts, to be able to communicate. And the students also liked the fact that it was very easy to modify and to change their builds as well. And it was very easy to do that as they went along. Ultimately, Lego Serious Play is playful learning. It was definitely fun. You can see that. You can see that from the looks in everyone's faces here. This is from another workshop I did with my second year class, where one of the students is literally bent over double, laughing. Again, yes, they were having fun. It doesn't look very serious, but they were most definitely learning. And why not have fun while you're learning? So I facilitated a recent Lego Serious Play workshop online with Dr. Helen Webster, one of our colleagues, Liam. And I think with lots of people, and Helen stated this as well, that she was a little sceptical. She'd tried playful approaches in the past using Play-Doh and collage, and was keen to find out what Lego Serious Play could do. She was keen to find out different ways of communicating as a way to help the students communicate. And also with the online facilitation, we don't have the masses of Lego that we perhaps do have in our normal face-to-face workshops pre-COVID, but we do have the Windows Explorer bags, and I think it encourages people to think and work in very different ways. And Helen herself said that essentially it sounds like she got into a state of flow. She became absorbed in the process and forgot essentially that the webcam was there. And actually, with regards to having reduced Lego pieces, I'll let you read that quote for yourself, that actually having a reduced amount of Lego bricks to play with actually helped her to, the predetermined pieces was helpful form of limitation, in that it was helped with a starting point to communicate. I'll just move on to the next slide as well here. But I think there's lots of different ways that Lego Serious Play can be used in higher education. In fact, it's limitless. And Helen was talking about it in the capacity of helping to using techniques for essay planning, but it can also be used for induction as well. Our students are going to be coming together in a way that they've never done before. They're not going to have the opportunity, depending on what institution they're in, to meet face to face like they would normally do. So using Lego Serious Play as an induction activity can help you to create this, I guess, a bond with students that might be otherwise quite difficult to do. So if anyone's interested in Lego Serious Play, I would encourage training as an LSP facilitator, and perhaps you could train key staff within the institution, perhaps academic development staff, who can then provide training to other colleagues. And you can use any Lego that you have at your disposal. It doesn't have to literally be Lego Serious Play kits. So that's me. It was a quick run through, but I would like to offer the opportunity, if there's anyone who's very interested in Lego Serious Play, I could offer a couple of free workshops where I would send you out some Lego Serious Play Window Explorer bags to give you a chance to experience Lego Serious Play. And that's me all done.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I mean, we're slightly over the time, but if anybody's got any questions, basically, if you want to leave to another meeting, go. But if you've got any questions, and I will just stop sharing. Take control. Stop presenting. There we are. So if anyone's got any questions, either post them up in the chat or just ask them, and Suzanne will help as best she can. I think there's just a lot of love for Lego in here, actually.
Could I just comment on this? Not really a question, but I love how focused it is on non-native students, because it will become so real and important and relevant now with online education, when we have more and more non-native students joining who might not actually be able to participate. It's just going to be really important. And I love the idea that we can do it online. That is new. That is really new.
And I think as well, I was a bit concerned about, because there's lots of high energy when you're doing this with people in the room, and I was a bit concerned that that wouldn't necessarily translate to online, but I was quite surprised that it did seem to do so. There's certainly challenges, and it is different, but it certainly is still very effective.
For Helen, do you want to just mute?
That is fantastic. I mean, I'm not an LSP facilitator, but I had the fortune to go to a workshop when I first started working at Lincoln about how it could be used in HE. And I've used it with my students who are part-time post-grad health and social care professionals and really don't like to let go of anything that isn't in control. And just seeing people, like you say, start making their own explanations for the problems they were facing and trying to sort of approach them collaboratively, it was brilliant. It's so much more effectively than anything I could do with PowerPoint and so on.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, you don't need to necessarily be a trained LEGO Series Play facilitator. There is information there online, it is open source, so anyone literally can use it. I think if you're doing more in-depth or more lengthy sessions, then I would definitely agree that perhaps having a trained facilitator would be useful, but what you're doing is fantastic and it's obviously working for you, so congratulations.
Yeah.
And yeah, keep doing it. Yeah. And what do you think about the energy in the room with students when they're using LEGO Series Play? Do they communicate in a different way, or what do you think is different?
Yeah, I mean, the particular cohort I did it with, they were all sort of senior sort of clinicians working, their advanced clinical practice master's students, so they're nurses and allied health professionals in very clinically responsible jobs, taking on sort of diagnostic skills and things. They tend to come very stressed from the workplace and not really in a place to learn, you know, so you often spend the first half hour of any session bringing them back to actually what they're really going to be there for, rather than what they're talking about, what's happened at work this week. And the Lego just sort of bypassed all of that. They were so focused on the task and, like say, in flow, that they didn't even have all the stress and burnout stuff, and the room atmosphere was very, very different.
And I don't know if you'd agree, the way that people communicate is very different. They're much more open, and they'll say to you openly themselves that I would never have said that if you just asked me a question, but because I'm communicating in a different way, the answer I've given is completely different as well.
Yeah, yeah. And some of the solutions they came up with to the really entrenched problems within working in health and social care system, although being out there, real blue sky ideas, but they would never even have tried that. They'd have suggested very tame things beforehand, whereas the Lego let them have a go and think, yeah, you know, we could send all the patients to Mauritius to improve their mental health. Great, why not? Can I go?
Sounds good.
Fab.